Open your eyes.
Ugh. What day is it? I feel like I've been asleep for so long. Wait, snow? But weren't we just in August? Hold on. Wait, what? We're in 2021 already? Hold on, that means I've been asleep for the past 4 months. Surely there's been a Nintendo Direct during that time, right? Okay, so apparently there hasn't been a Nintendo Direct during that time. Hold on, what's this? A trailer for a Hyrule Warriors game? Age of Calamity? What the hell is that? Wait, that's so cool. When is it out? Wait, it's out now? Let's freaking go get it then. Wait. Since I've been out for the past 4 months, surely there's been another Smash DLC reveal, right? Steven Sephiroth? Hello everyone, this is DesTr0, and oh boy, let me tell you, I was not expecting my first video of the year to be about a Breath of the Wild prequel of all things. The reveal actually came out of nowhere. I'm really glad that nothing leaked before that original trailer, because it had that much more impact. Nintendo was probably planning to show it off at E3 2020, but as we all know, COVID happened. So instead, on September 8th, 2020, Nintendo just randomly posted a trailer to their YouTube channel, giving us the basic premise of the story, some gameplay, a very cool music theme, the release date, which was in just a couple months, and some of the characters that will appear in this game. Holy Link's in this game? Thankfully, Nintendo was very generous over the next few months and gave us frequent trailers or gameplay events to show what the game was about. They even gave us a demo some weeks before the release, and you could carry the data from it to the actual game once you purchased it. So, overall, it was a very short wait compared to a game like Breath of the Wild 2. This game is going to be so great! Dude, I can't wait! Okay, it's been a year, Nintendo. You could give us some news. Surely it's going to be at the Game Awards, right? Right? Oh, me? Don't worry. I've already given up hope of ever seeing this game in my lifetime. Okay, before diving in, I have to talk about spoiler warnings and stuff. In the first part of the video, I will only be talking about and showing gameplay up to the beginning of the 3rd chapter, which means I won't reveal any new character or story detail up to the point where Link picks up the Master Sword. Hopefully I didn't just ruin the game for you. I didn't know he was going to use the Master Sword, his main weapon for the past 3 decades. Also, I will talk in the first section about the Divine Beast missions, which can happen after Chapter 3, but there won't be any spoilers, and since that was shown off in a trailer, it's fair game in my opinion. And then in the later section, I will talk about everything in depth, including the story, characters, and other important stuff, so don't look until you've played the game for yourself. But I will give another warning at that time, do not worry. Alright, with all of that out of the way, here is my review of Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity. First off, I'm gonna start with the music, because it's one of the first things I noticed while playing this game. This may come as a surprise to those that have played Breath of the Wild, as the soundtrack in that game was definitely great, no doubt, but it made up a much smaller part of your experience compared to previous Zelda entries. But that's completely fine. It makes a lot of sense in the context of Breath of the Wild's world and gameplay. Like, it wouldn't make as much sense if this was playing while you were out exploring. I'm going on an adventure, Mom! However, Breath of the Wild still has some of my favorite tracks in the franchise, and some that any player of that game will recognize instantly. Where? And so, I'm happy to report that Age of Calamity's soundtrack goes back to the franchise's roots, with music that accompanies the high intensity of the gameplay, with beautiful Breath of the Wild remixes and original compositions. And since it's a Zelda game, you can be sure that they snuck the main theme in there. Wait, I recognize that melody. It's oh, it's the main Breath of the Wild theme, right? No, it's not. It's the main Zelda theme. What are you talking about? Dang it. Also, each of the gameplay musics has at least 2 different loops. There may be more, but I noticed 2 for certain. There's the main loop, obviously, and the high action loop, which plays whenever you are getting a critical hit on an enemy, if I can call it that. Here, I'll make you listen to an original Breath of the Wild track, how it was adapted to Age of Calamity, then finally the high action loop. Okay, one last thing about the music. I just want to talk about the tone of it, because it does reflect the tone of the story really well, which should obviously be the goal when composing video game music. The best example I can give is the victory theme. The most appropriate way I can describe it is by using a famous historical quote. You may have won the battle, but it's not over until Ganon's dead. Sun Tzu. Alright, I don't want to talk about the gameplay just yet, so let me discuss the visuals instead. Wow, what can I even say? The game is simply stunning. Seeing all those previously destroyed locations from Breath of the Wild now rebuilt to their former splendor. It just makes me glad that we got this game. Unfortunately, you don't always have time to take in the environment because you're fighting for your life, but that's alright. That's what Breath of the Wild is for, right? Everything here is so true to the original. It really did make me feel at times like I was playing an extension of Breath of the Wild. It's that immersive. Somewhat unrelated, but I did find all the character portraits really cool. They look amazing. Oh, and the cutscenes. The cutscenes. Somehow, someway, Koei Tecmo managed to make them even more pretty than in Breath of the Wild. It's hard to say exactly why, but I felt like the lightning was especially... Wait, did I write lightning in my script? Whoops. But I felt like the lighting was especially on point here. And, sure, since I'm on the topic of cutscenes, might as well talk about the voice acting. I can't make too many comparisons to the original, as my playthrough does they a little, but I think it was maybe a bit better here. Well, one thing's for sure, there is a lot more voice acting this time around.
not only in the amount of it, but also the number of characters that have been given the ability to speak, like Hestu, Robbie, Pyrrha, and especially Master Koga. It's now much more than just the main characters of the story. Also, before each mission, a narrator tells us what's going on, and that was pretty neat, I found. If anything, I'm hoping that this gives Nintendo more confidence in voice acting in the future, because when it is done well, it really does add to the experience. I'm hoping that we can see even more of it in the Breath of the Wild sequel. And I just want to give a quick shoutouts to Link's voice actor. He really killed it this time around. No, but for real, does Link ever get tired of not being able to talk? Not only must it suck during interviews.
So, Mr. Link, what would you say are your biggest strengths? You're hired.
But imagine you're going up against evil incarnate, and the only thing you can do is...
Hiya?
Alright, I'm about to talk about the gameplay, which is obviously the most important aspect of the game, but first I want to address something. If you've listened to other reviews, some of them may have talked about the frame rate being awful at some points. In my opinion, the frame rate was never truly bad. Sure, there were a couple missions where you can notice occasional spikes, but nothing too dramatic. And also, the game can have a hard time if you do a flashy move that kills like 100 foes at once. But yeah, all I'm trying to say is that it shouldn't really be a concern. And now, the gameplay. I personally have never played another Warriors game before, so this was a new experience for me. In my opinion, this is a type of game that is very uninteresting to watch, but really fun to play. The concept is simple, really. Defeat thousands of enemies that stand in your way. And yet, through the amount of characters, enemy variety, runes, rods, and other aspects of combat, the gameplay remains fresh and exciting, at least for me. Sure, if you only play the same few characters over and over, it may get repetitive, but that's just your fault in my opinion. Also, before diving deeper into it, I just want to take a moment to appreciate the very existence of this game. Can you imagine how the original pitch meeting went? Well, I can.
Hello, Mr. Aonuma? You wanted to see me? Why, yes. Thank you for coming, Mr. Hayashi. The reason I brought you in today is to talk to you about a game that I want you to work on. We're making Breath of the Wild 3? No, not that. Breath of the Wild 4? No, just let me talk for a minute. You're gonna be working on Breath of the Wild 0. 0? Like a prequel? Precisely. Why? Couldn't you just make it yourselves? Mr. Hayashi, do you remember how we told the story in Breath of the Wild? Well, yes. It was through these memories of what happened 100 years ago. Exactly. We made all the cool stuff happen 100 years ago, and we just told players to fill in the gaps themselves. While in reality, we were just too lazy to write an actual story. Yes, I do remember hearing you talk about that. Well, now that's not my problem anymore, because you're gonna be writing that story anyway. Oh, I get it. Because the Calamity happened 100 years ago, and since it was a big war, you think that a Warriors game could work well in that context. You got it. Wait, so does that mean I'm going to get to kill Revali? Potentially, yes. I'm in. Oh, one thing. Just make sure you put some Korok seeds in the game. How many? Like 1,000? No, just a couple hundred. Because we already have over 2,000 in the sequel.
Anyway, maybe it wasn't exactly like that, but I'm sure it was close, right? But if I'm talking about gameplay, where do I even begin? Age of Calamity is such a beautiful love letter to Breath of the Wild fans. Nearly all main aspects of gameplay are represented here, albeit in a different form sometimes.
Go ahead. Just name a Breath of the Wild mechanic, and I can guarantee that it's there. Weapons durability? Okay, maybe not that, but open world exploration? Well, the game isn't open world, so that doesn't really count. Shrines, horses... Okay, fine, we get it. Maybe not all aspects of Breath of the Wild make an appearance here, but at least a good portion of them do.
Let's take a look, for example, at cooking. In Breath of the Wild, cooking allows you to prepare meals that healed you and gave you some really interesting stat buffs. A big part of it was just experimenting with what ingredients you had on hand and trying to come up with something new that was hopefully edible.
Oh, you're not supposed to eat the guardian parts with fish and mushrooms. Well, the more you know, I guess.
And, in Age of Calamity, cooking is back. This time around, you can choose to cook meals before a battle to give you some stat buffs once again, should it be speed, attack, defense, etc. It doesn't give the element of experimenting, however, as you can only do recipes that you've unlocked through completing side quests, but it still felt true to the original. Another good example is the runes. In Breath of the Wild, these are your main tools to solve puzzles and interact with the world around you. If you need a quick refresher, you have Magnesis, which allows you to control metal objects, Cryonis, which creates ice pillars out of bodies of water, Stasis, which freezes objects in place, allowing you to build up energy that will be released at once, and remote bombs, which, well, they blow up, obviously. In the original, they could be used for combat if you got creative, but the primary use was solving puzzles. I mean, in Breath of the Wild you also had the Amiibo rune and the camera rune, but those obviously wouldn't really fit in this game. And that's it, right? Oh yeah, there's also the freaking motorcycle, baby!
Woo! Yeah!
Let's go! Coolest part of the game. And in Age of Calamity, the runes have been reimagined as a core mechanic of combat, serving as a way to expose strong enemies' weakness gauges. There's a whole system here, like if a foe charges you, use Cryonis, if they start spinning wildly, disorient them with Stasis, if they go on the defensive, attack them with bombs, and if they are about to throw a metal weapon at you, use Magnesis to catch it. And every character has their own ways of using each rune, which keeps it interesting and not repetitive. After that, you have enemy variety. Well, it is once again very true to the original, as every single Breath of the Wild enemy makes an appearance here, except maybe some animals which could attack you in the original, like coyotes. And actually, the enemy variety is even greater in Age of Calamity, considering that strong enemies all have elemental variants. I'm talking about Moblins, Hinoxes, Lynels, Stone Taluses, or would it be Stone Tali since it's plural? Wizrobes, and Guardian. All these enemies have fire, ice, electric, and Malice variants, which makes fighting them different. Except for Moblins and Wizrobes, they don't have Malice variants. Basically, a fire enemy has a weakness to ice, ice to fire, and electric to both fire and ice. That allows you to exploit those weaknesses and deal more damage to elemental enemies' weakness gauge. This is kind of like the critical hit I mentioned earlier. I should maybe quickly explain what the weakness gauge is. It's very simple. All powerful enemies and bosses have one. Whenever they execute a strong attack, they will leave themselves open after for a short moment by exposing this gauge that gets whittled down simply by attacking it. Once it's depleted, it allows you to do a powerful strike, which is your strongest attack. So, whenever you are against a tough foe, your goal is basically just to break that gauge, then hit them for big damage, rinse and repeat until they're dead. Very simple concept, but as I said, they make you use all your different runes, so you have to be ready and react appropriately to their attacks. And keep in mind those powerful strikes to foes when their weakness gauge has been depleted, because I want to come back to them later. Earlier I mentioned elemental weaknesses, and that's all well and good, but how do I deal electrical damage to an enemy? Great question. It is done by using elemental rods, the ones that are dropped by Wizrobes in Breath of the Wild. The way they work in Age of Calamity is slightly different. Once you get a rod, you get to keep it forever, however you do have limited uses for each one, which have to be replenished by defeating an enemy of that type. For example, if I use my fire rod once, then I am going to have to defeat a fire type enemy to get more uses in the form of these tiny elemental crystals. You can also find those just by exploring and destroying crates and missions. Rods aren't something that I use very much early on in the game, because whenever I have limited uses on an item, I tend to stay away from it, but at some point I realized just how incredibly useful they are. Because if you exploit an enemy's weakness, you can deal damage to their weakness gauge much more quickly than usual. Sometimes, you can completely break it in one cycle. So, if you're up against a powerful foe, don't be afraid to use these. You'll usually have more uses for your rods than you can ever need anyway. Gosh, I feel like I've barely even scratched the surface of combat. I don't want to talk about every single detail, but let me keep going for a little longer. As you're amassing KOs, you will fill up your special move gauge. Pretty simple stuff. Once it's full, tap A to unleash a powerful move that usually has a wide area of effect. This is also very useful to expose gauges and gives you a good opportunity to damage them plentifully. They're also very cool visually. Then there's flurry rushes that come straight from Breath of the Wild. Honestly, my favorite combat mechanic. It works exactly like in the original. Dodge an attack at the last moment and you'll be rewarded with a chance to counterattack. In this game, it's used mainly to weaken enemies' gauges once again, and it's one of the most effective ways to do so. And the thing about flurry rushes is that it is a technique that is so rewarding to get good at, because it's a strategy that works regardless of the character you're playing or what enemy you're up against. Towards the end of my playthrough, I wouldn't say that I had mastered the timing, but I was very consistent at them for sure. Another cool, albeit less useful mechanic that made a comeback is parrying. This is exclusive to characters that have shields, which means not a whole lot. Swing your shield as a foe strikes you, and you'll leave them open for a short moment. This is especially useful against guardians, as you can reflect their lasers back to them, exactly like in the original, and I'm honestly really happy that this feature is back, because I am pretty good at it.
Oh, a guardian? I'm not scared of you. I got the perfect parry timing. Okay, that one was just a practice round. Alright, maybe I need a bit more practice.
The game does still keep a bit of classic Zelda exploration, as all story missions do have chests scattered throughout and Koroks to find. Don't worry, they're definitely not as bad as in Breath of the Wild. Finding all of them didn't feel like as much of a chore in this game. And similarly to the original, they are used to expand your weapons inventory. And you'll most likely want to do that because your weapons inventory can get cluttered quickly. But this game also has some completely new mechanics, the most important of which is, in my opinion, weapons fusing. Once you have access to the blacksmith, like after the first story mission, you can start paying a rupee fee to combine weapons to get a stronger one and increase its level. There's also an entire system of seals, which are stat buffs for your weapons, but honestly, I didn't really get into it, but it's there for those that want to get the best possible weapon. And for some reason, this game also includes the really niche mechanic that when you throw a rusted weapon at an Octorok in Death Mountain in Breath of the Wild, they'll spit out a brand new, refurbished weapon. It doesn't work the same way here, but basically at some point the blacksmith gained the ability to de-rust weapons, and it's called Octopolish, which obviously is a reference to the feature I just described. On the topic of weapons, I should mention that all characters get 3 different weapons, which basically correspond to 3 tiers. Some of them are new weapons designed for that character specifically, but a lot of them are weapons that Link could use in the original game. Oh yeah, and Link has access to nearly all weapons of the original, which means a ton of them.
Welcome to the weapon shop. How can I help you today? Oh, hi. I'm just looking, thanks.
Wait, haven't we already been here before? Whatever. All those weapons look too good. I need something a little more practical. Oh, Broom. It's probably not on sale though.
Oh look! Geno's in Smash! Look man, I know that's not true, but I'm gonna look anyway. Oh wow! Thanks. I'll bring it back once Ganon's dead. I swear, what is up with these warriors and their stupid habit of taking stuff not on sale?
Finally, I will now be unstoppable with my broom in hand. Anyway, interestingly, Link has 3 different movesets. One for one-handed weapons and shield, a second one for two-handed weapons, and a final one for spears. All 3 play quite differently, but honestly, I just stuck to sword and shield because I liked being able to reflect Guardian's lasers. And same for Zelda. She has 2 different movesets, but I don't want to talk about her second one too much as it is kinda spoiler territory. And now, I should mention just how cool the game is.
And you can trust me on that, cause I'm very cool.
Remember those powerful moves I talked about earlier? Whenever you've depleted an enemy's weakness gauge? Yeah, well that's what I want to talk about. Each character gets a basic one that you'll usually use against moblins, or whenever your move is not going to finish off the enemy. Everyone also gets a finisher, which can be unique depending on the enemy. For example, when Link is about to kill a Lionel, he mounts it and starts slashing its back furiously, which is once again a reference to Breath of the Wild. And when he defeats Hinox's, he just stabs him in the eye. Ouch. But also, very cool. So here, I'll just show some of the ones I prefer.
Incoming!
But my favorite has to be one of Zelda's finishers. She spawns a minecart from Death Mountain, uses stasis on it, then spawns a bunch of bombs to build up energy before releasing it onto her enemy. It's my favorite because of the sheer creativity of it. She is literally exploiting Breath of the Wild's physics engine as her method of killing, and I just find that so freaking cool. Also, on the topic of being cool, characters can wall jump in this game. Why? Because why not, of course. Yet they can't quite do it with my own grace.
Alright boys, we are back, and today the plan is simple. I'm gonna run, jump off of this wall, then land in a roll. Easy stuff, right? Here we go. Here we go. I did it!
Last aspect of combat I want to talk about is the Divine Beast missions. Overall, they make up a pretty small portion of gameplay, and all 4 of them do control somewhat similarly, but I just wanted to say that it's extremely cool that we got them. I can't say that I didn't have fun rampaging through thousands of enemies running through Gerudo Desert as Vanaboris. It's just something that adds to your experience, you know? And I'm sure it made lots of people happy.
Finally, I can check this off of my bucket list.
So that covers pretty much all aspects of combat, but there are other interesting features on the map, like different shops. There's your regular shops that sell all basic necessities, like resources used for cooking or completing side quests. You also have traveling merchants, which can appear at stables, like in Breath of the Wild, but you won't find the same ones all the time. You then have the training camp, which allows you to increase the level of your characters by paying a fee, really great feature that avoids grinding for levels. And they even brought back the dye shop, which lets you customize the color of your armor. Here I should mention that this is unfortunately exclusive to Link, as he is the only one that really gets different armors, being the ones that he used in Breath of the Wild of course. And this is really interesting, because in the original you may have found an armor combination that looked cool, but that you couldn't always wear because of the environment you were in. But since in Age of Calamity you don't have to worry about that, you can just wear what looks the best. Okay, I'm almost done with the spoiler-free part of this review, but first I want to talk a bit about the story. Don't worry, as I've said, I'll only be covering the first hours of gameplay and story. It starts off like you would expect. Calamity Ganon's threatening to wake up, and with them complete destruction of the kingdom, like what we see in Breath of the Wild. However, this time around we get a couple of new characters, like Astor, whose goal is to bring back Calamity Ganon to life, Suga, protector of Master Koga, who is allied with Astor, and this funky little guardian, which kind of comes from an alternate timeline? Hard to tell. All throughout my playthrough, I called him Sethbot, and if you get that reference, then
Holy sh**, you're a nerd. But so am I, so it's alright.
All I'm gonna say is that from the moment I saw it, I knew I would protect it with my life.
Wait, I know this one for sure. Hold on. It's from Ocarina of Time. Oh yeah, I got it. It's Song of Time. No, it's Zelda's Lullaby. That's why he's playing it to her, you colossal idiot.
My favorite moment in the early parts of the story is the Master Sword pickup scene, and I want to talk about it. So if you want to avoid light spoilers on that part, then you can just skip to this timestamp towards the end of the video, after the spoiler section. As I was saying, my favorite moment has to do with the Master Sword pickup scene. The reason I love it so much is because of the twist they've given it, both in the story and in the music. Watch this.
Oh, alright. I may not have gotten the first two correctly, but this one. It's the Great Fairy Fountain theme, right? Are you kidding me? It's the main Zelda theme again. How do you mess that up twice in the same video?
Now, for as much as I enjoy that scene, I have to be honest. The only thing I could think of when seeing Link pull the Master Sword was...
Wait, Link! You don't have 13 hearts, you're gonna die!
Anyway, that was it for the first section. If you don't want to hear me discuss the rest of the story and all playable characters, then skip to this timestamp. If you have already finished the game, then let's jump right in. The story. How do I say this? I feel a bit disappointed by it.
Guys. So that's what I said. Oh, hey. What's up? We failed. DesTr0 is disappointed by the story. Oh no, don't tell me that's true.
And the reason I am slightly disappointed is because I feel like this was just a safe play. They could have taken some risks, seeing as this is still just a spin-off, but in the end, they wanted to give us a good ending. What am I talking about? Well, if you were there around the time when people were speculating what the story was going to be, a lot of us thought that the game was going to end tragically, that the champions were going to be defeated, that Link would be brought to the Shrine of Resurrection, etc. Yet that's not what ended up happening. The story seemed to be following the same course as Breath of the Wild until one particular event occurred, one that completely changed the direction of the story.
Okay, that's how you do it. Hey John, I wanted to talk to you. Oh, hey boss. What are you doing? Are you drawing something? Well, actually, I was, working on the story of the game. Ah, right. And what did you come up with? Well, you see, I thought maybe we could split the Breath of the Wild timeline in two. So here we could have the branch where Calamity Ganon wins, the champions are defeated, and then maybe in this other branch, the champions could win, and that's where we could put Age of Calamity? You're suggesting we pull in Ocarina of Time again? You know, I don't dislike that idea at all. I think we can make it work. Though, you're still losing your job because you weren't working. But thanks.
About halfway through the story, all four champions are aboard the respective divine beasts when suddenly, the blights from Breath of the Wild appear. And just as I thought they were done for, Terrako, that's the real name of the little guardian by the way, called into the future for some help. And what happened next, I did not see coming.
Yo, John Wick is coming to save the champions?
The descendants of the champions came to the rescue of their idols, helping them fight off the blights. That means Teba, Riju, Yunobo, and my favorite, Sidon, all came back to help. Now, for as much as I like these characters and how fun they are to play, it is clear that the entire story was built around these 4 coming back. Though, if I'm being honest, that was my favorite moment of the story by far. And, I mean, it's fine. We wouldn't have had that much material to work with if it weren't for them anyway. Yet I can't help but feel like the story could have taken a different, more tragic approach. Like, wouldn't it have been cool to have a Zelda game where we lose for once? This was honestly our best chance at getting it, so I don't think that's gonna happen in the future, but it's alright. So, basically, in the end everyone lives, and we sealed Calamity Ganon, and now there is a new branch in the Legend of Zelda timeline. Just leave it to the fans to figure it out. They'll make it work.
Okay, that's it. I finally managed to put Breath of the Wild into the official Zelda timeline. Wait, who's there? Dude, my life.
You know, when I envisioned what the story was going to be, I imagined the whole world of Hyrule as one large battlefield. And I saw how this region was being attacked, and we needed to send some support. But then this area is getting stomped by guardians, so we have to send another squad. But in the final product, each mission ended up feeling kind of disconnected from the previous one. Yeah, sure, there was a main plot being followed, but it was hard to see the big picture. I get that this is something that would have been very difficult to do, but it could have been awesome. Anyhow, let me just quickly talk about the playable characters, and then I'll wrap it up. You obviously have Link, with his 3 fighting styles depending on your weapon type, Zelda, Impa, the 4 champions, their descendants, Hestu, the Great Fairies, Monk Mascotia, Master Koga, King Rome, Terrako, and finally, Calamity Ganon. I don't want to talk about everyone, as that would take an enormous amount of time, and there's other people that have done that, so I'll just talk about some personal highlights and lowlights.
Impa!
She's super quick, she spawns clones that fight alongside her, and has tons of style. She is a perfect fighter. Impa for Smash.
Great fairies!
Super cool character and concept. I laughed so hard when I unlocked and first played them, because they are obviously a joke character. They're very large and clunky and slow and overall not very good, but it's still cool to have them in the game.
Master Monk!
Monk Mascotia, my favorite boss from Breath of the Wild. I think that this character has the coolest attacks. Like, all his X moves are references to either shrines or his fight, and to fans of Breath of the Wild, this feels right at home. Unfortunately, he doesn't come with his funky boss theme, so he is actually the worst character in the game. The Rito Boys. Honestly, my biggest issue with these guys is the camera. If you're using them in confined spaces, well, good luck keeping up with what's going on. And I know it's no one else's fault but mine, but when I saw the descendants of the champions appear, I hoped that my boy Cass would join them, because he's one of my favorite Breath of the Wild characters, and he could have a really cool moveset. Oh well, hopefully in DLC.
Sidon.
Sidon, my baby. I was so glad when I saw him come to Mipha's rescue, and I was even more delighted when I discovered how fun he is to play. Sidon has this mechanic where after using certain attacks, you have the chance to press the ZR button at the correct time to perform an additional attack. He's really fun to play once you get in the rhythm of things, and I'm glad his theme made a small appearance too.
Okay, I got this one for sure. Oh no, here we go again. There's this part in the song that's Sidon's theme, right? No, it's not. It's actually Sidon's theme. Wait. Did you just get it right? I did? Mom, you won't believe what happened.
And finally,
Wait, what the hell? Ganon's playable? Oh, does that mean you can defeat Ganon while playing as Ganon? If that's the case, then my fanfiction is actually canon.
I'm not gonna lie, he is the one character I never thought would be playable. I really have not played him that much, but it's really cool that they gave us the final boss as a playable character, and his attacks are literally the same as the bosses, so that makes it even better.
Well, that about wraps up what I had to say about this title. In conclusion, it's a pretty freaking awesome game. The combat was very well crafted and did not get repetitive, the visuals were beautiful, the voice acting wasn't bad, and even if the story wasn't my favorite part of the game, the presentation, gameplay, and music definitely make up for it in my mind. If you were on the fence about this title because of the Hyrule Warriors franchise attached to it, but did enjoy Breath of the Wild, I would recommend picking it up. It was, in my opinion, more Breath of the Wild than Hyrule Warriors anyway. It's just that this gameplay style was more fitting to the plot, and that's really cool. It is clear that the devs were passionate about this project, and the number of references that they managed to fit into one cartridge is astonishing. I cannot stress this enough. This truly does feel like I am playing an alternate version of my favorite game of all time. Is it Dragon Quest XI Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition S? No! Oh, okay, that's cool. I thought maybe, but it's alright. You can like whatever game you want. Thank you so much for watching until the end, guys. This has been DesTr0, and I will catch you in the next one, whenever that may be. Bye.